What must be one of the biggest events of the year, the Welsh two-day Enduro held on the 24th and the 25th of June. This was some new going here before the first special test. Graham Jones and Graham McPhee, they were one of 12 competitors in the expert class. And there were 14 sidecars in the clubman class. 52. The great thing about the Welsh is that it's a single lap on both days and you do get to see some marvellous scenery. Well, that's if you've got time to stop and take a look. Sportsman rider Andrew White just missed a gear then. Arthur Walton was riding an Armstrong 500. And some of the more modern machines had good headlights. Ian Bell was here again, riding in the over 50s, and he could have gone in the over 75s if there had have been a class. David Brown from Preston was riding his big BMW in the sportsman class. The going on this first day was just right. It had rained yesterday and that had settled the dust. Number 11, Andrew Seward and Simon Rogers from Bude. The Smith brothers from Cross Keys making quite a splash. And the solo rider Tudor Lewis from Kyasus. This was part of the going just before the Terrenig Forest. Paul Farmer, number 67, followed by Andrew Thresher. Robert Farnham wasn't too keen on coming through the stream. He hadn't picked a good line. There was a rock in front of his front wheel. Bob Mullins was making notes on the way round for a report to go on his website. Rhys Williams had got a high number. We thought he was in the expert class, but he was a sportsman. There was some sticky going in the Wayne Forest, and this was just before Tommy Breeze's farm. It made some people's hair turn colour. I thought the blue was going a little too far. Perhaps it was Craig Radford's favourite colour. After a little while, we had quite a gathering at this spot. Klenk and Winter were the only German pair in the sidecar class. Quite a few solo riders were lined up behind Bob Room, and he may have been selling them raffle tickets. One of the marshals, Mark Egerton, appeared on the scene, and he soon got things moving. This was a tricky little spot that caught out a lot of riders. And if you're going to fall off, well, you might as well stop the next one. A little competition here. Now, how many people can you get round a sidecar? After that muddy hole in the trees, the going was much easier. And a little later on in the day, the riders arrived at the special test at Abbey Camere. And as expected, it started to rain late in the afternoon. We had quite a heavy shower for about half an hour, and it made the test fairly slippery. Some results now for this first day of the Welsh, and in the clubman's sidecar class it was number 25, Steve Plain and Adrian Jarvis from Landrindod, who finished in third place. I'm sure you all know Steve Plain. He's got his motorcycle shop at the bottom end of Landrindod. He used to be one of our top championship riders, but I think this was the first time he'd been on a sidecar. They did struggle a bit in one or two places and dropped 15 minutes on the day. The runners-up in the class were number 16, Martin Chapman and Cathy Elcox. In the Irvine Forest, they had quite a race with David Williams and Philip Gethin. And when they came to Tyrennig, the pair from Llanidloes were still in front. Martin and Cathy were clean on the going on this first day. They were beaten by the pair from Dunstable, Seth Conisher and Colin Solly. These two were clean on the going and they won the first test at Lanier. They also had a good second test and they won the first day by just 7 seconds. In the expert class, the James brothers, that's Jeff and Roger, they decided to give it one more go. Remember, we'd seen Roger a few weeks ago at the Powys Enduro. He'd won the sportsman class. This was going to be their only outing on the sidecar. After the first test at the Pistol Farm, they were in about 4th place. Jeff was taking it very steady through the water. They were the first sidecar into the Wayne Forest and they didn't see that tree stump. They did the fastest time on the test at Abercromby and finished in 3rd place overall. The runners-up on day 1 were number 10, Peter Hannis and Martin Pegler from Gloucester. Remember, we'd seen them at the Powys a couple of weeks ago and they'd finished runner-up there. They were quick on the first test at Lanier and they beat the Jameses by 4 seconds on the day. They were one of the 8 sidecars that went clean on this first day. It was number 6, Matt Turner and Gavin Yelland from St Austell who took the Premier Award. They won the first test by quite a big margin, beating everyone else by at least 10 seconds. The Barnetts were in the running at one time, but they got a hole in their fuel tank. These two didn't quite win the second test, but at the end of the day, they won the class by over 13 seconds. There were over 100 riders in the sportsman class, and about half of them managed to stay clean on the going, and it was number 81, Brad Armstrong, who finished in 3rd place. Brad was riding a Husky 125. In 2nd place was a local man, Mark Wilkie from Landrindod. The places sorted out on test times and Mark was 8 seconds ahead of Brad. And the top rider in the sportsman class, well, perhaps it should be renamed Sportsmen and Women, because it was a lady rider, number 98, Katie Wakely. And Katie won the class by over 30 seconds. You may remember that a Simon Wakely won the clubman class last year. Well, that's Katie's brother. There were 30 riders in the over 50s, and the runner-up on this first day was number 162, Peter Lawrie, and he was beaten by number 160, Andy Waters from Diss. I think Peter was wearing a new pair of boots. He wanted to see if they were waterproof. On the first test at Lanier, he'd beaten Andy by 5 seconds. I seem to remember that Peter had won an award in this class last year. Andy set a very fast time on the test at Abercromby and he won this class by 13 seconds. In the over 40s, number 204, Nick Shepherd from Bristol finished in 3rd place. The runner-up was number 278. I'm afraid I'd missed to see him. And the class winner was another rider from Bristol, number 205, Adrian Dark. It was fairly close, less than 2 seconds between Adrian and Paul. With 2 strokes and 4 strokes, there were over 180 in the clubman class, and it was number 344, Alistair Bramwell, who finished 4th. James Yearley from Braintree was runner-up. He was number 325. In 3rd place was Nicholas Evans from Raider. I'd missed to see him. And the winner on this first day was number 253, Tom Pugh from Myford. There were over 80 experts in total, and it was number 440, Dylan Jones, who finished 4th on the day. And just half a second ahead of Dylan was his brother Rowan. 2 Joneses in the top 4. And now there are 3, because number 514, Robert Jones, finished runner-up on the day. He finished 0.8 of a second ahead of Rowan. Robert's father, Gareth, also had a good test time. Edward Jones, the winner of the Welsh last year, wasn't able to ride this time, so it was Robert who was hoping to collect the silver. The winner on this first day by 2.4 seconds was Darrell Bolter from Durrington. You may remember Darrell from a couple of years ago. He won the clubman class then.